Hello and welcome to this edition of Pop and Scott Talk Baseball. We're coming up on 100 episodes really, really fast. I think this is like 91. But yeah, we have some things to talk about. Me and Dad spent 3 days together, so we solved a lot of problems already.
Yeah, nobody was listening. My tummy put back together. That was...
yeah. Good to see.
I had surgery Friday, and everything seems to be going all right. I'm a little sore, but I didn't even take a pain pill this afternoon, so I'm cool.
Good. Yeah, you seem to be moving around pretty good when I left this morning, so I was happy. Well, we did, interesting. We did watch a little baseball this weekend, a Caribbean series or whatever they call it. It was baseball.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't exactly the world's best players, but it was.
Yeah. I recognized a couple of names. Probably Billy Hamilton was probably, he's 42 and he was playing the second baseman.
Canal.
Huh? Yeah, from Seattle, went to the Mets. Got busted for EDs.
What was it? Starts with a C.
Yeah. And then Pujols was managing a team trying to get into the.
Yeah, Albert Pujols is managing the Dominican Republic. It looks like they might have the best team, but he has hinted that he'd like to have a chance one day to manage in the major leagues.
Yeah. So it was interesting. Mexico was being managed by Benji Gill, who played years and he was on the World Championship Angels team back in the day.
Exactly.
So
back when he had the rally monkey.
Yeah. So and his son was playing Matilio Gill, which I thought he was on a team, but he must have got released or something. So he was playing in the Mexican League. Very interesting. It was. They put the bat on the ball. The pitchers won't throw in, 90, low 90s was probably topping out for those guys. So a lot more bats on the ball and a little bit more going on. So that made it interesting. But you watched the Japanese team, which was from the Industrial League.
They weren't the best players from Japan. They were from an all-star team from an Industrial League, and they got pretty well waxed by Venezuela, they got waxed by Mexico, but Venezuela. I'm sorry, Venezuela. Yeah, but I mean, they were trying, but they're just not a very good team. But
right.
I watched a little bit of that in the afternoon, and it was so bad. When it got to be about 9-0, I said, "That's it. I'll see you later."
Watch the golf tournament, but it was just fun to watch baseball. I wish I had the picture up that my buddy Mike sent to me of the Super Bowl where the part of the country rooting for the Chiefs is in Kansas City, part of the country rooting for the Eagles is in Philadelphia, and the rest of the country is gray, which marked everybody else was ready for baseball.
Yeah, everybody else is ready for baseball.
Yeah,
I
think there's a lot of truth.
Like one person told me the other day, he said, as far as the Super Bowl is concerned, he wished both teams could lose, but that's beside the point. But
right,
anyway.
Right. Yeah, I feel the same way. But I'm going to pull for the Chiefs because I just can't do. The Eagles is just.
Well, I mean, I'm a Washington fan, and that's the division, so I don't root for the other division teams. I mean, it's just.
Well, Washington was in it for me. I would root for Washington.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, but
this week in baseball, there were a few minor things that they got accomplished this week. Like right now, everything is in limbo, and the main reason it's in limbo is because of Alex Bregman and Pete Alonso, because they're in free agency purgatory right now, and they're not getting the money that Boras wants them to get. Well, anyway, the Cubs traded a prospect to the Houston Astros for Ryan Presley, who used to be the closer for the Astros. Of course, the Astros picked up Hader last year, and Hader is now the closer. Well, Presley was upset because he was no longer the closer, so they traded him. So he's going to close for the Cubs. San Francisco signed Jake Lamb, an infielder, 1 year, $1,034,000. He's 34 years old. Last year he played for the D-backs. Pittsburgh picked up 33-year-old Tim Meza, a reliever. He pitched for the Yankees out of the bullpen last year. The O's, one of their great offseason moves was they signed outfielder Dylan Carlson 1 year, $1 million. And they did sign Jorge Mateo without him going to arbitration. Austin Hayes, Carlson played for St. Louis last year. Austin Hayes, who started out with the O's last year, and the year before he made the All-Star team, and last year he started out with the O's, and the O's and Phillies traded last year, and he went to the Phillies, and then he had some kind of kidney disorder or something, and missed most of the season. He signed with the Cincinnati Reds for 1 year for $5 million. The Rays, they picked up Ha-Seong Kim, the infielder from the Padres, 2 years, $29 million, and they're going to put him at shortstop to play shortstop for the Rays. Picked him up. Detroit, they picked up a reliever from the Yanks, 1 year, $7.75 million, Tommy Canling, and he's 35 years old. But
so here's my question now. Let's back up for a minute. So the Padres lose Profar and Kim. That they're only down to 5 shortstops now. So what did
that's
they do?
Exactly right. None of them play shortstop though. I mean, they're all in another position. The Kansas City Royals picked up all-star right-handed reliever Carlos Estevez, 2 years, $22 million. He pitched for started out with the Angels last year and wound up the year with the Phillies. The Reds traded minor league reliever Braxton Roxby. They traded him to San Francisco for left-handed reliever Taylor Rogers and signed him for 1 year. The Toronto Blue Jays picked up Max Scherzer, 1 year, $15.5 million. The Seattle Mariners signed Jorge Polanco, 1 year, $7.75 million. And excuse me, the Mets, they re-signed 27-year-old Nick Madrigal, infielder. He's going to be play utility for them. Also, on the front, the Pete Alonso front. Now, here's somebody who made a bad decision. He was offered a 7-year, $158 million contract in 2023, and he turned it down because he wanted to try free agency. So now the best he can get from the Mets is 3 years, $70 million. And they said this morning they're not coming off of that. That's it. Take it or leave it. If you don't take it, you go somewhere else. You want to play for us?
With his options.
Right, with his options. But it's 3 years, 70 million. And so they said that's it. Boras, of course, is counting on some team getting desperate in the last minute and deciding that's he or Bregman are the only is that piece that they need to get over the hump. But he's liable to wind up what he did last year with these people having to take a cut in pay because nobody wants to offer that kind of money for these two guys. Oh, and the Dodgers, it was announced today, this morning or yesterday, that the earliest Ohtani will pitch in the rotation will be May. It may be later, but he'll pitch. The earliest he will pitch is in May. And that's what it looks like with his rehab and that from his injuries, from his shoulder injury. I had a little fun while I was sitting here the other day in front of the computer recuperating yesterday. I picked a team out of each division that I thought probably better show something this year. Or I don't know. If they don't, when are they going to show? And starting out in the American League in the East, I'm picking the Orioles, one of my favorite teams. They don't seem to want to make a move to pick up anybody of value. They don't want to spend the money. Fine, if you don't want to spend the money. But you've got some young dudes that you're going to have to come off some money for. And if you don't do it pretty soon, you're not going to win. You're not going to win. The Yankees have gotten better. They might have lost Soto, but they've gotten better. They're better pitching and better bullpen. Boston's gotten better. Toronto might have gotten better. They signed Santander. So they might have gotten better. So in the AL East, I think it's Baltimore. They've got to put up or shut up this year. In the Central, it's Minnesota. Minnesota is regressing while Detroit and the Kansas City and Detroit are gaining on Cleveland. Cleveland, Kansas City, and Detroit, that's going to be one of the best races this summer. It might be the best race of all of them. Right. And the only bad team in that division is the White Sox, but the Minnesota might be backing up some. So Minnesota's going to have to prove something. And in the West, well, it's the Seattle Chargers. I mean, they sooner or later, guys, you got to do something. You picked up Polanco. He's a good ball player, and he might help you out. You got great pitching. You got good defense, but you don't score a lot of runs. But sooner or later, you got to do something. And this might be the year. Now, in the National League, this is going to sound odd. But in the East, it's the Phillies. The Phillies are probably going to win the division. They got the best pitching. They probably will win the division over Atlanta and the Mets. However, they may have shot their wad when they lost those 2 games to Arizona 2 years ago when they could have gone to the World Series.
And I bring this up all the time with the Phillies. They've played a lot of postseason games now, the same pitchers, just like the Astros. They have a lot of innings on those arms now.
Yeah, and you could tell by the end of the year last year, they were getting tired.
Yeah,
they were getting tired.
I want to see how Nola responds this year because he looked tired at the end of last year.
And in the Central Division, I'm going to say the Reds. They have picked up one of the better managers in baseball. They've picked up a couple of pieces. So I want to see what the Reds can do. Now, I don't know if their pitching's well enough to make them a contender, but I think the Reds might be showing some spark this year. I would have picked Pittsburgh, but they only play in April. And they've got great pitching and little else. And in the West, I could say San Diego, but I'm not. I'm saying San Francisco. It wasn't that long ago San Francisco won the division. It wasn't that long ago San Francisco was viable and challenging for the playoffs. They've gone backwards the last couple of years. And they didn't do a whole lot this year except shine.
For me, it's going to be Arizona. I want to see how they bounce back. They were World Series, didn't have a very strong whole season. And then this year they pick up Corbin Burns. I want to see what Diamondbacks.
I expect Diamondbacks to improve. Now, on paper, it looks like the Dodgers and the Yankees have the 2 best teams in baseball. And maybe be in the World Series again, just like they were back in the 50s when they used to play in every other World Series. But who knows? And Arizona has good pitching. They've got great defense, and they've picked up some pieces, so we'll see what they've got. Now that they've got Corbin Burns. But let's point this out, too. He pitched for the Orioles last year, and I watched that team all year long, and by the end of the year, he was out of gas.
That's right.
He was not pitching the same as he was. He was not pitching in September and October like he was in April and May. He just wasn't. And so there's another. I mean, the fatigue on these guys. They're not used to pitching a lot of innings. They're just not. I mean, if a starter goes 6 innings, he's deep in. Now that's deep in the game. The 6 innings, which is crazy. But the most important, I say it all the time, the most important part of your team is your bullpen. If you got a decent bullpen, you got a shot. And the problem with the Tigers and the Indians is that they had these bullpen games, and that's fine. But by the end of the year, your bullpen's going to be worn out. So
yeah, you gotta find 5 guys that can get you from the 1st to the 5th where you got a chance.
Please, you got to find them, and some teams are even are trying to find a 6th guy, so they can go to 6-man rotation.
What Dodgers team, they're going to go six man rotation.
It's
I feel like they almost have to now with two Japanese starters and Ohtani.
Well, when I was looking it up when I was checking everything out this morning, because naturally I just had surgery, I didn't go to church. When I was checking it out, the Dodgers this morning, it looks like they're going to start out with 5, and then go to 6 when Ohtani starts pitching in May or June.
I mean, they could have 9.
They could definitely go to 6 because in their starting 5, they had May in the bullpen.
Right. That's why they got 9 starters. So, I mean, that team, I can't wait to see what they do. I feel like anything less than 100-win season in a World Series.
Well, what would tickle me to death is if they didn't make it to this World Series. That would, I mean, it would be. I used to be a Dodger fan when I was a kid. When they were in Brooklyn, I was a Dodger fan, and I stayed a Dodger fan until Sandy Koufax retired in '65, and then I switched to the Pirates because I loved Clemente, and then I switched to Atlanta, the Braves, because Atlanta was on TBS, and I saw them every night, and their farm team was in Richmond. Their AAA team was in Richmond, so I became a Braves fan through the entire '90s. And then when Ted Turner got rid of them and they stopped showing them on TBS, and the Nationals came to Washington, after a few years, I switched from Atlanta to Washington because I could see them almost every night. And you and I went to a bunch of games up there for a couple of years. So I became a Nationals fan. So I root for all the teams in Washington. I would root for the NBA team, but they don't have one. It's in name only. And I don't watch the NBA. But anyway, the other thing about Bregman, we've talked about Pete Alonso today. There was absolutely nothing in the last 3 or 4 days about Bregman. Nothing. He still has an offer from Boston that's on the table, but they turned that down.
Well, what we did talk about this weekend was Pete Alonso, when we haven't brought up today, is signing and firing Boras.
Yeah, somebody in New York wrote an article about that. Right. And you and I saw that article where they said that he would go ahead and sign that 3-year contract with the Mets and then fire Boras. I mean, he did it last year with the pitchers.
Yeah. He
got Soto signed, and that's it. And I mean, these guys are in free agent purgatory. I mean, they're stuck.
Because these owners, we talked about it. Years past, owners tended to overpay because they wanted the best player on the market. Now they're not overpaying, and because they know free agency next year, there'll be somebody better, or they'll just build from within instead of overpaying for these guys, on their back end of their careers.
Yeah.
You can say unless you're a superstar, superstar, then that's the difference. These two guys are very good. They're all stars, but they're not Soto. They're not Manny Machado. They're not Harper. They're not Trout. So there's a difference. They're a level or two below those. It depends on what you're looking for. So, they keep talking about Bregman having to play because he's a pull, everybody's a pure pull hitter now, but he hits a lot of fly balls that gets out of that, and Houston gets out. Well, if he plays in another ballpark, they're going to be fly balls.
If he signs with Detroit, he's going to just fly out to left. I mean, the ideal place is Boston with the Green Monster.
Yeah, he can bounce them off the monster, get a bunch of doubles,
and
or get some of them over the monster. Yeah,
but I'm just curious. I'm curious to see what's going to happen, because I think it's going to be just like last year when Snell and Montgomery just had to take what they could get.
Right.
because nobody wants to. I mean, guys, you can buy a minivan and call it a Corvette if you want to, but it doesn't make it a Corvette.
Right.
It's still a minivan. So if you want to pay minivan prices for a minivan, that's fine. But you don't. These owners are not going to pay Corvette prices for a minivan. They're not. They've decided not to do that anymore.
Well, and also, I mean, let's face it. They got to look at it as this. So you sign one of those names I talked about a minute ago. People come to the ballpark to see those guys play. They might come to see. There's like plenty of us Pete Alonso fans. I love Pete Alonso, so it's hard for me to talk about him like this. But I don't know if people come to games to see Pete Alonso take his 3 or 4 at bats. I just don't think that's a little bit of the difference too. They're just not that superstar.
Well, there's still a number of players. I don't know how many of it is. It's not that many, but there's still some who are collecting on contracts that were signed years ago.
Right.
Now, owners don't want to do that anymore either, where they pay. They're going to pay they're going to give a 30-year-old guy a 7-year contract, and he plays for 3 or 4 years and he's washed up. And then they got to pay him 3 or 4 more years while he's sitting on his couch. They don't want to do that. They want to pay. And the other thing is this, folks. I don't care what Pete Alonso did last year. I'm paying Pete Alonso for what he's going to do this year. I'm not paying for what he did. I'm paying for what he's going to do. So is he going to do what he's done in the past? You don't know. 3 years for a 30-year-old, 27, 28-year-old ball player is a good deal. He can opt out after each year and go back to free agency. That's the deal that they have on the table.
And if that's the case, you didn't have a very good year. Well, he had an okay year, but not one of his normal. And even Bregman didn't have a great year.
He didn't have an all-star year.
No. So what you do is you take a 1 year and bet on yourself. And the Mets even sweeten the deal by giving him 3 years and betting on yourself.
And I think the Bregman's 30 years old, and I think the Red Sox offered him 4. I mean, I don't know what these guys want. I mean, he turned it down and came and counter offered with a 6 or an 8, and they laughed at him.
Right.
So, I mean, well, at Boras, because it was Boras. And there's 5 or 6 guys that are going to be free agents next year. They better check and see who their agent is because.
And I mean, but we talk about it all the time. We're going to be starting the season. We don't have any huge rookies that we're talking about right now, but there's going to be some rookies that are going to be game changers. There always is. Or second or third year guys that start playing, coming into themselves. And why, and you're going to have to pay those guys after their first 4 years. So why would you pay a guy that's on the back end that we talk about this in football? Why would you pay a guy in the back end when a guy is 10 years younger than him playing as well or better and has a higher upside? That's the things you got to look at. And I mean, Soto is still young.
Yeah, he's still 20-some years old.
And Harper and Machado wasn't old. Harper wasn't old Pete Alonso's not old, but you have to, these guys, Pete Alonso's not Harper, right? He is not that guy. He's not Manny Machado. He's not.
And Bregman's not Machado.
Right. So, Jeter, A-Rod, those guys got it back when it was unheard of. And, it's not the manager, the owners are trying to put a stop to it. I think they're like, well, look.
Well, we talked about this last week. They're talking about a lockout after next season because they're not only upset with the Dodgers, they're also upset with the Mets because they paid so much for Soto.
Right.
That irritated. They said that drove up the prices on the free agents because of the Soto deal. And
it might hurt the rest of the free agents because they think they should get something like that, but the owners are like, no.
It doesn't work that
if you're the Pirates, you either got to come. If you don't come up with money for your pitcher, they might burn that stadium down. They can't go out and spend that money on a free agent, and especially one that might not produce for you. I mean, some of these teams, they can't take a chance. They got to be right.
Yeah, because they don't have the money that these other teams. We talked about that while you were up here too. That the higher dollar markets with the have richer local television contracts than the smaller cities do, smaller town markets. So they have more money coming in to pay for these contracts. What irritates me,
and they got money to be wrong. Money, you can be wrong when you got the money because you can afford to get another guy.
If you're the Mets owner, now what he paid Soto was crazy money, but what he's paying some of the other guys is a rounding error. To him is pocket change.
Right.
But if you're somebody else that owns another team, you don't have that kind of money to throw around. If you throw that kind of money around and you make a mistake, you're done. Now, but this is what bothers me. Every team made money last year. Every team. Nobody lost money. Everybody made money. So there is some money to spend. Don't tell me you don't have the money to spend. Everybody's got some money to spend. That's what irritates me about Baltimore. Baltimore could take Kjerstad and one of their top minor league players, which they've got a ton of them, and trade them to San Diego and probably get Cease. But they won't because they don't want to spend the money. They don't want to have to spend the money on Cease when he becomes a free agent.
Well, and also they're so in love with their players in their minor league system right now.
Well, go ahead. Oh, for 2 years in a row, they won the AAA World Series. Big deal. Outside of Norfolk, who knows that?
Right.
I mean, come on.
Right. I'm with you on that. That's who cares? We talked. They did Kjerstad a little bit of a injustice by keeping him because he's gotten a little older now. And, and
he's a good ball player.
And he's stuck behind these other people. Now he's going to get a chance with Santander gone, but
he's going to get his chance to play right field because Santander's gone.
Right.
But on the other hand, you could use him to get a pitcher, and you guys, Baltimore needs pitching.
Yeah, and they got other outfielders. In that system. I watched Norfolk play a few times last year, just couple innings here and there because they were the highlight minor league team. They were showing a lot. Boston's, I can't remember. There's a few other teams that were showing a lot. That's the one good thing about the baseball package is now they're showing like they're highlighting some minor league teams so you can see some top talent. And they're not blacked out. So, but that was, it's going to be, because this year I'm really interested. I think the Nationals has maybe one of the top rookies that people are looking forward to. They had a lot of at bats last year, so we got a sample size for him, which is Woods. He's still raw, but he's got a huge upside, big talent. I think in the making if he wants it, I think. Well,
you have him in left field, and you got that speed burner in center field
from LSU. No, I know who you're talking about. Yeah,
LSU's playing right field.
Right field, yeah.
And they got that kid playing center field.
And he could be up if he gets his bat going. He could be up for Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, the Nationals might play a little better this year than they did the last couple of years. They're slowly but surely putting a team together.
Yeah, and they got a couple of pitchers they're bringing up. So, yeah, that's I'm going to hopefully here now that, thank goodness, January is behind us, I have some time to do some deep dives in some of the young players we can talk about coming up.
Well, next week will be the 9th, and in spring training for the Dodgers and Cubs starts on the 12th because they play early in Tokyo this year. So And then the following week, everybody's in camp. So it's only a couple of weeks, guys, and they're in camp.
Yep. And then we'll get some movement. It'll be nice to see somebody just the cracking of gloves and pop of the bat. I mean, it's just when they start showing them practicing, I just get warmer. And doesn't matter what the temperature is outside.
Yeah, it makes you feel warm inside.
Yeah, it's just so good. I'm so, like I said, we watched some of the Caribbean series. It was just nice to see baseball.
And what I liked about the Caribbean, because in Mexico, and they showed the crowd, and I thought it was Halloween.
Yeah, they're having it's a party.
They were having a blast, and everybody was in a uniform. I mean, they had all kinds of costumes.
Well, they're wearing their country's colors. Yeah, it's like
and they're wearing costumes and luchador masks and all kinds of stuff. I said, this is pretty cool.
Playing music in between pitches. It was fun to watch.
And then we thought it was NASCAR because all the players had 15 different commercials on their shirt.
Yeah. Gosh, I hope that never comes to Major League Baseball. With the one patch on the shoulder is okay. But I know that, they got to get some help down there in those Latin leagues. And that was, we were surprised. We still didn't find out why Japan was in it, but, I guess.
They probably just invited them.
Yeah. I mean, like we said, it's the industrial, which is their minor league system.
And it's guys, the game is going international. Whether it's not like basketball, but it's going international. And they're playing it in a lot more countries every year. They're even talking about putting a league over in Saudi Arabia or somewhere over there.
Well, they had that league in what's that rich country? This
Bahrain, or wherever it was.
Yeah, where they had 6 teams, and so it's probably third behind basketball internationally.
And soccer, of course.
Well, soccer one. I mean, that's one.
That's a given.
Right. And, some countries, there's other sports that are huge that we don't even know about,
like cricket.
Yeah. Well, cricket, in India and
go to the Philippines. They play badminton over there.
Yeah. And, that's just, but, baseball's being, I mean, one thing baseball's doing, they're doing it quietly. And they got a team, they got a pro league, Italy, pro league in Australia. It's just going to get bigger and better. I can't wait for
the women are coming out with a league this year.
Yeah. 16. I just wish they would just, I'm not trying to be, hopefully this doesn't come out sexist, but it might. If they would just play softball at that high rate, because we talked about it while I was home. Like the college game, those girls are putting the bat on the ball. Now they can't jump out the circle to pitch. It's a lot more fun to watch those girls play. I probably need to back the fence up again, but
well, if the women play baseball, I'll be waiting for there's no crying in baseball.
That's right. So I a lot of stuff going on for baseball. We were talking. It was kind of a quiet weekend almost of sports. We watched some hockey and we watched, the men's game is going on, but it's like nobody cares until the playoffs start. March Madness is right around the corner, so everybody's getting that fever.
And 11 of the 25 teams got beat yesterday in the top 25, which has never happened. That's the first time in NCAA basketball that's happened.
Well, I mean, we watched a little bit of what Louisville and Kentucky, and Louisville's unranked and running with Kentucky.
No, Louisville lost to Georgia Tech.
Oh, Georgia Tech. Oh,
and no, Arkansas.
That's what it was.
Yeah, Arkansas upset Kentucky.
Yeah, I was like, and I don't even watch basketball, but I can.
Oh, I love it.
I can enjoy it when it's 2 teams playing. It's just when it starts to be me type of game, I can't watch it anymore. But anyway, I digress. Or regress. I don't know. Did I digress and then regress? I have no idea. But anyway, baseball right around the corner. Colleges start up seasons like next couple of weeks. They'll be starting down here in the southern states. And let's see what else. We got, like, I want to find out when that that minor league spotlight is as well. I think
The
that's
breakout. They all have the breakout.
Yeah, it's like the second or third week of spring of after their pitchers and catchers. So I really like that, highlighting the young kids, getting really to see them play. And you got anything else today, Dad?
No, that's it.
Some good stuff.
The last 2 Sundays, I was in pretty bad shape and hurting quite a bit, but I managed to make it through. And today I'm real tired after the surgery, but other than that, the pain is way better than it was before. So right. I could enjoy it today without having to squirm in the seat and look like I had ants in my pants.
Right. Yeah. And
but I don't have anything else. I'm done.
Okay, so we're gonna leave you with that. Next week, hopefully we'll have some news on the 2 big free agents, and
I doubt it.
What's going on? Yeah, I do too. So until then, like, share, tell a friend, and we will see ya.